Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Weapons, number 2 would be Freakier Friday, number 3 would be Nobody 2, number 4 would be The Fantastic Four First Steps, and number 5 would be The Bad Guys 2. And guys, I did it. Genuinely, I didn't quite know how this weekend would turn out, and I haven't checked the comments yet, but if you got your predictions right for this video, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then better luck next time. But there was a part of me that was like, I don't know, it could go either way. Weapons could have a massive drop off, and it's not number 1 like I was predicting, or maybe Nobody 2 gets even more popular this time around, or Freakier Friday pulls that, just something like that. But nope, got all 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. I feel pretty proud about that. Let's just dive right on in. It's a pretty simple weekend, all things considered. It's kind of a dry debut for a certain movie, obviously. And I feel like next weekend is probably going to be a similar thing. You know, we'll talk about that when we get to the predictions for next week. Number 1 was once again Weapons. And I think the bigger thing, other than can it be number 1 again, is how can it hold over? It got that A- cinema score. It had that really great debut, really good word of mouth. And it dropped only about 43%. Which I feel like for a movie that gets as bonkers as this does is pretty fucking cool. It made $25 million for this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $89 million. Worldwide, it has jumped up to $148 million. So they have already tripled this initial production budget of $38 million. They're a little on their way to get to the quadruple point. So I feel like at this point they're well in the clear of whatever they sunk into, you know, the production and then also the marketing after the fact. I did want to also take a look at the year of 2025 as far as horror films. Right now, it is behind Final Destination Bloodlines domestically by 49 million, and then for the worldwide numbers of 148, it is only 2 million shy of 28 years later. So it's, you know, in case you forgot, 28 years later, I feel like had a bit of a drop off after its debut, but worldwide it kind of picked up some slack. But then Final Destination, that was one that really blew up. So I feel like the fact that it's already kind of closing in on that one domestically, and I feel like it's just going to keep, you know, getting bigger worldwide. It seems like, you know, these things are working in tandem again, domestic and international numbers. You know, I'm curious to see. I don't know if it could outgrow Sinners, but it would be interesting to see how close it could get as far as like the year, you know, for 2025 in horror, but also just for the year in general. You know, like Sinners was one of those movies that, you know, as far as like competing with all these other blockbusters, I feel like some of them, you know, kind of exist in this vacuum now. Some of them have been disappointing. You know, some people are tired of the same old thing. Some people are more in tune with that. So Sinners just came in at the right time, and it was critically well received enough so it could, you know, really pierce through, and it's one of the highest grossing movies of the year right now. I wonder where Weapons could get overall though, and I'm still just very ecstatic about its continued victory. But of course, number 2, Freakier Friday. This one didn't drop off too bad, about 49%, so that is not bad at all for this movie. Like I predicted, these two are kind of like the ones to see, I feel like, for the rest of this month at least, because genuinely next week I don't. We'll talk about it. It made 14 million, adding to a domestic total of 54 million. So it is 56 million away until it gets to the original Freaky Friday film at this point. And then worldwide, it is sitting at 86 million. So the initial production budget being 42, they have doubled that at this point, and that places it 74 million away from the original Freaky Friday. Okay, you know, all things considered, it does seem like this is, you know, a success for the people involved. I think, you know, even though it's not matching what Weapons is doing, and how people are talking about Weapons also just culturally, I do think this is like a, you know, contained kind of success for themselves. I think they're very happy to be riding off the coattails of any successful movie, right? Number 3, let's just get to number 3. Like I said, you know, kind of been there, done that as far as like the last 2. Weapons, obviously, I just talked a little bit more about, but Freakier Friday, it's kind of like, you know, whatever to me. Number 3, though, is Nobody 2. And here's the thing about the original Nobody, came out in 2021. I feel like it was March of that year, March, April, whatever. So it's still kind of testing the waters. Vaccines, I think that rollout happened like in April, but like the mask mandate wasn't lifted in May. So it was in that weird in-between time of like some people went to see movies, not everybody though, you know, and Nobody was a, you know, solid success for that time. Now the opening weekend for this movie was higher than the original film, but just by 3 million. This movie opened to $9.2 million, and the overall worldwide opening was 8.1. Now this is on a budget of 25 million. I feel like it's only a little bit more expensive than the first movie. The first movie didn't cost that much. So I do think potentially if they have enough momentum, if they came in at just the right time, they could get to a doubling point or a place where, you know, they're in the clear. But I don't know, man. I was kind of theorizing that I think I talked about it a little bit last weekend. I don't know how much of like an impact the first Nobody made. I don't mean even just in theaters. Like I said, it had a decent run back then, but just overall, it's been 4 years since that movie came out. And I mean, if you remember my review, I liked the movie. I wasn't head over heels in love for it. I feel like I had mentioned it, you know, has, you know, some weaknesses. I think this could have been an excellent movie, a true kind of comedic rival to like a John Wick. Unfortunately, it has some issues that kind of hold it back. I feel like, you know, there are some people that have been enjoying that one and this one, but I feel like the same kind of thing applies, at least from my perspective. I know I haven't done a review yet, but it's not one that you're like, oh, I gotta tell everybody about this. It's just no, yeah, that was fine. You know what I mean? And I do feel like for a movie a sequel that is 4 years, you know, after the fact, with kind of very minimal marketing, it feels like I feel like I have not been seeing much of this one played around. It's not a big deal that, what's his name? Hutch? Hutch is back on the big screen or anything. Yeah, man, I just, it could potentially leg out, you know, get to a doubling point of this budget. Maybe it's too early to tell, but I mean, I feel like this is a less than stellar debut. You know, I feel like the team probably feel that way also. Like, well, yeah, it's higher than the first movie, but not by a whole lot, you know, and they still have a ways to go to outgross the other films' overall runs. So, it's really like domestically they have a shot, but worldwide it's a bit steeper. And if you don't have solid legs to get to that, then it's like, okay. Number 4 is the Fantastic Four First Steps, finally getting a weekend where they don't drop 60%. This one was in the 40s, so good for them. Made 8.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 247. For the MCU domestic list, it did outgross Doctor Strange, the original, by 15 million. It is 12 million behind The Winter Soldier. Worldwide, it is at 468 million, so about 32 million shy from $500 million. That is not a bad number to be at. Hopefully, the initial production budget being 200 million, hopefully 500 million is not a bad place to be. It did outgross the original Thor by 19 million. It needs 8 million now until it gets to Quantumania, so good on them for that, I guess. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I mean, yeah, it outgrossed some more MCU films. We just got through like the long list of MCU movies, and I feel like it's slowed down enough now where it's like, okay, now we're having some battles here. You know what I mean? We're slowing down enough. But I mean, like I said, it finally did get a weekend where the drop off wasn't another 60%. It wasn't another, you know, bad thing. You know, 40% is fine. But I mean, it's everything's already kind of been said as far as like, yeah, the thing that has significant holdover we'll get to at number 6. And it doesn't paint a great picture for the potential of the MCU moving forward box office wise. But you know, that's ways away. This is still doing well, you know, but it is interesting how something can be doing fine and it can still be like this huge negative thing. Whatever. Number 5 is The Bad Guys 2, making 7.5, adding to a domestic total of 57 million. That places it 40 million away from the original film now, and then worldwide it is bumped up to 117 million. So yeah, about 43 million away from doubling their initial production budget of 80 million. I mean, you know, it's still in the top 5. You know, it seems like it's about to leave, but it's still in the top 5 at least, so good on them. It does seem like, you know, this could be the alternative family film to see other than Freaky Year Friday, so, I mean, maybe that has a play going for it. Maybe that's why it's able to stick around for a little while longer. But, you know, I think I still maintain my stance of, like, it definitely seems, and I enjoy both Bad Guys movies, but it does seem like maybe, I don't know, like I was saying, like I feel like it wasn't marketed all that much. Maybe it just slipped through the cracks of like the Superman hype and Fantastic Four, stuff like that. And even now with those movies kind of being passed, I mean, you know, Weapons is killing it. Freakier Friday is the family movie taking place. Maybe people are still overlooking The Bad Guys. I don't know. But it was a good movie. Hopefully it can, you know, have another solid success overall. I mean, what is this, like week 3 of release? Yeah, week 3, I feel like at this point. Hopefully. Number 6 is Superman. Like I was saying, this is the one compared to Fantastic Four. This one is still doing really well. And despite the fact that it just came out on digital this past Tuesday, not Blu-ray, but it is on premium video on demand. It had about a 34% drop. So not another, even though it's available at home, it didn't drop so drastically. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they can do. Some people still wanted to go to the theater to see this, you know? It made 5.2 million, adding to a domestic total of 340 million. So domestically, that does mean it outgrossed the first Guardians of the Galaxy for James Gunn by 7 million. It's behind Volume 3 now by 18 million. And then for DC films, just any DC film, it outgrossed Aquaman by 5 million and Joker by the same amount. It needs 72 million now until it gets to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Probably doesn't have the momentum to get there, but hey, a fool can dream. Worldwide, it is sitting at 594 million. So for Gunn, that places it 176 million away from Guardians. And then for DC altogether, 67 million away from Justice League. So domestically, it's able to pass by these other ones. Worldwide, it's had that longer struggle of Guardians is one thing, but then Justice League, yeah. But still, though, you know what I mean? I feel like this is still working out really well. I know they dropped it on digital. The reasoning being they didn't think Peacemaker would end up coming out scheduling wise so soon, and they were like, well, we want as many people to see Superman as possible, so they're like, let's release it at home early. I still feel like for a movie that is having these great holdovers in the theater, this is still a really bad idea. Like either I know Peacemaker is the streaming thing, but still, like, keep this shit in the theater, make as much money as you can here, and then do the build up the hype more, you know, hold on to it in the theaters a little bit more, right? Whatever. People are still enjoying it, I guess. Number 7 is The Naked Gun, making 4.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 41. It is still behind Naked Gun 33 and a third by 10 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 65 million, now behind the original film by 13 million. But more importantly, it is behind its 42 million initial production budget doubling point by about 19 million right now. So, I mean, it's been having these solid, you know, little weekends that are slowly kind of building up, but, you know, I think if it would have been more effective to get to that doubling point much sooner, or I don't know, just maybe sticking around the top 5 longer. It is now at number 7, which is a little, you know, depressing because I really enjoyed this movie, and there was a part of me that was like, maybe this could be another blockbuster comedy, and unfortunately it doesn't look like it's doing that, but hopefully word of mouth has been so positive, people keep going to the theaters right now at least, but also when it comes home, people will watch it a lot there, and hopefully it has some kind of life there. I genuinely don't know if people on the inside of the industry consider this a success. I mean, it's definitely getting more of a crowd than some comedies you could release in theaters, or at least, you know, comedies that don't get marketed all that well and barely anyone goes to see, at least compared to those. But still, I'm not sure how they feel if this is a success or not. I mean, I hope they're getting something out of this. Number 8 is Jurassic World Rebirth, making 2.9 million, adding to a domestic total of 332 million. For the Jurassic franchise domestically, it is behind Dominion by 44 million. For Gareth Edwards, it's behind Rogue One by 201 million. Worldwide, it is at 828 million. So for Jurassic World, it is behind Dominion by 176 million. And then for Gareth Edwards, it's behind Rogue One by 227 million. Still no more progress with either of those, but hey, it's over 800 million worldwide at this point. You know, it's still raking in money. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, and I don't know if it'll be here next weekend or not because of all the weird movies that are coming out, but I was like, man, I would really like this to actually outgross Dominion, just based off of, I feel like at the very least, this is a much better, just overall entertaining experience than that. But also, like, is this movie good enough to warrant making $1 billion? Like, because making $1 billion, I feel like, or at least in a perfect world, that shows, like, you've made something really spectacular. And I just feel like Dominion having $1 billion over this is weird, but also I feel like Rebirth is not like this amazing, you know, spectacle of an emotional experience or anything like that. It's just a really fun, well-executed movie. So that conflicting thing of like, well, the title of it, but you know, this might sound stupid to you. I'm going to keep moving on. Number 9 is F1, making 2.6 million, adding to a domestic total of 182. For Joseph Kosinski, it is behind Maverick by 536 million. And then worldwide, it is sitting at 590 million, 10 million shy of 600 million worldwide, which would be the tripling point of their alleged initial production budget of 200 million. Really good for them. It is behind 862 million until it gets to Maverick for Kosinski, but I feel like at that point it doesn't matter. I feel like this is probably going to leave next weekend as far as the top 10, but still, what a hell of a run, you know, having these really solid holds week to week to week, you know, competing with all these other blockbusters. But clearly still having some kind of audience for this. Really special, you know? And then finally closing out the video, number 10, Coolie, making 2.4 million on a budget of 350 to 400 crore. Another one that I didn't know existed, and even checking the Fandango site, so I don't think I ever saw this one. Kind of snuck up out of nowhere. On thenumbers.com, it was saying Shin Godzilla for a bit, but then I hopped over to Box Office Mojo, and then this one appeared, so I'm like, oh, fuck. Sorry, Godzilla. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. I don't know. Because I feel like Eden doesn't have like this big marketing push. Honey Don't, I feel like doesn't either, but could that be the one that gets more people in, all things considered? And a couple other smaller releases that are just like, I just don't see these like breaking out into the top 5. I feel like normally they wouldn't, but it is a slower season. But then again, people might go see these other movies finally. So I feel like number 1 will be Weapons once again. Number 2, Freakier Friday. And I feel like if I'm going to make an extra prediction, neither of these films drop that significantly with what they made this weekend. Number 3, Nobody 2. Number 4, The Fantastic Four First Steps. And then number 5, I will go with Honey Don't, just wild card, because genuinely I do not know how this is going to go. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.